Hey guys, welcome back. I'm glad you're here today. On today's episode, we're going to be replacing a door. Now, I went ahead down to the hardware store and I got a blank door. It doesn't have the hole for the doorknob on either side or the hinges recessed area. So what we need to do today is go ahead and get the hole drilled in the door for the doorknob and the recess the spot for the hinges. If you have the old door, your first step is going to be to get the old door and lay it on top of the new door and trace out the spots where you're going to need to cut the holes. First things first, you're going to want to go ahead and remove all the hardware from your old door. The hardware is the latch, the knob, and the hinges. Now, the reason you want to get that out is so that the old door will lay nice and smooth on top of the new door. So, I have all the hardware removed. I have the old door laying on top of the new door. I'm going to go ahead and trace these holes out. Now, with the doors lined up, one on top of the other, you're going to want to take note as to whether your hinges on your door are recessed or not. Mine are, so I'm going to have to go ahead and recess these spots in the new door just as much as the old door had. The way I'm going to do that is trace out the old spot, then I'm going to draw the line right down the side and mark it on the other side as well. There's a great many number of ways that you're going to be able to cut this hole out. The easiest way is to get a bore bit for your drill, a hole saw bit for your drill. If you don't have a bore bit or a hole saw available, or you don't have the money for it, you can do it on the cheap with a coping saw. A small coping saw basically has a jigsaw, scroll saw blade rather, and you drill a small hole and you go ahead with the saw and you go all the way around the hole and cut it out. It doesn't do as nice a job, but you can do it that way if need be. Now, me personally, I use a whole bore bit. I use one of these, and the size that I need is 2 1/8 inch for this doorknob. Me personally, before I drill a hole with a bore bit, I like to drill a small pilot hole right in the center to keep this bore bit centered and keep it from wandering around on the door and making some pretty unsightly marks on my door. I'm going to go ahead and drill that pilot hole now. I also want to mention that you're not going to want to cut all the way through this door in one shot. You're going to want to cut most of the way through from one side and just until the tip of the bore bit comes through the door, and then you're going to want to flip the door over and cut from the other side. The reason being is you're going to have a lot of tear out and a lot of unsightly marks if you go through in just one shot. This is going to help it keep cleaner and look more professional when you're all done. Now you'll be able to line up the cut on both sides pretty easily if you've gone ahead and drilled the pilot hole like I just mentioned in the door, because that pilot hole is your center mark, and you'll be able to line up your bore bit with that on the other side of the door. Now you can see where the pilot hole is, so you know right where to start on the side. Now that I have the hole drilled for the doorknob, I'm going to go ahead and drill the hole for the latch. For my size latch on my size door, on the size knob that I'm using, I'm going to be needing a 5/8 inch bit. And I'm going to be using the same type of style hole bore bit that I was just used for the doorknob. Now you're going to want to make sure that when you do this, that your doors are lined up perfectly, so that the hole that you have for the knobs are lined up. And then you can line up the holes for the latches to make sure they're identical. The hole for the latch and the knob are now complete. Now we're going to turn our attention to the hinge side of this door. Now with the circular saw unplugged, we're going to go ahead and get this set up to the depth necessary to countersink the door hinges on the new door. Now with the blade guide loose, so the depth gauge is loose, we're going to go ahead and set this right on top of the door, on the hinge side. And we're going to make it so the blade just touches the door, just like so. Now you're going to make sure both sides of the guard are out of the recessed area. So I have it on both sides with the saw blade touching the wood in the recessed area. We're then going to go ahead and tighten down our depth gauge on our saw. And we now have the saw set to cut the new door. With the depth gauge set on the saw and the saw now plugged in, we are now ready to cut these holes. I'm going to go ahead and get my hearing and eye protection on and get these cut for you. Stay with me. Now as a mental note, as you go to cut this, you're going to need to have your blade guide back and out of the way. Now you want to make sure that you hold it out of the way so it doesn't snap back down on you, but you also need to be careful not to stick your fingers into the saw because you will cut a finger if you do that. So we're going to go ahead and get this cut. And there you have it. That's our first recessed door hinge. Let's go ahead and move on to the others. Now, because I'm using the old door hinges and there's already the door hinge holes here, I'm going to go ahead and mount the hinges on the door frame first and then put the door up to it and mount the door. The door should line up perfectly in those recessed areas with the hinges that we already have. Now, I want to point out that there is a top and a bottom to the hinges. You might not be able to look at it and see right off, but the top side of the hinge has this little head on it, little head on the pin, that keeps it from falling out. So when you have it in, it doesn't work itself out. Whereas if you have it the other way and you use it, as you can see, it's starting to work itself out as the door hinge flexes. So we're going to go ahead and mount these right side up. Now with these hinges mounted on the door frame, we're going to go ahead and attach the door to the hinges. Now I'm using my toe to lift this door up and hold it into place so I can get a screw started. Now, when installing the hardware back into this door, you're going to want to make sure that you put everything back the way that it was in the old door. Now, I'm going to be putting the latch in. When you put the latch in, you want to make sure that the curved side of the latch is going to be pushing against the striker plate. Otherwise, your door won't latch properly. So when I put it in this way, this is going to make it line up so that it hits the striker plate on the door frame. You're also going to want to make sure that you put the locking side of your doorknob on the inside of the room where you want to be locked into, not out of. Otherwise, you might find yourself locked into your bathroom rather than out of the bathroom. So anyway, I'm in the bathroom. I'm going to put the doorknob in so that it lines up so that I can lock myself into the bathroom. And then the knob goes on the outside. All that's left to do is now put the screws in. Thanks for joining me on today's episode, guys, on replacing this bathroom door. I hope to see you soon on my next episode. Now, I need to go take care of some business, so until next time, guys, bye-bye.